So here's the plan. I am going to build a workbench today. This is my first woodworking project, so I am very nervous about it. I have only, okay, enjoy yourself. I have only very limited experience. I mean, if I have 8 hours experience with woodworking in the past 20 years, I have plenty. So I have borrowed a miter saw, a circular saw. I have 8 lengths 2x4 at 10 feet long. I have a sheet of ply at, well, that's 4x8 feet, and I went with 5/8 thickness. That is the only variation I made from a plan that I download on our web channel called Fix Build This, Fix That, or Fix That, Build This. I'll put links in the description. But I love this plan that I downloaded because it has a cut list and it shows the measurement of the lumber. The only difference is his 2x4s are 8 feet long, but the hardware that I'm working with, or the hardware that I checked, they only have 10 feet lengths. I am terrified of tools, but I'm going to try my best. The first thing I'm going to do is cut the framework and the support for the tabletop. As I mentioned, links in the description, and special thanks to Fix This, Build That for posting these plans, which are free. The length of the workbench is 45 inches. It has a top shelf and a bottom shelf. Following the cut list, I have to cut 4 pieces at 45 inches. That would form the frame, the length for the top shelf and the length for the bottom shelf. The edges are a bit frayed. I don't know if I need to make it cut a little bit faster. This is the second piece at 45 inches. Before this project, I've never owned any woodworking tools. As I said, the circular saw. Oh no, in fact, my brother gave me that circular saw. I forgot about it. And this is his miter saw. I purchased that tape, and I saw this instrument called a speed square, which looks like a very helpful instrument. So I purchased this for $70 TT at a local hardware. I also purchased this Stanley measuring tape, which I want to dedicate to woodwork use. So I'm marking my 45 inches here. The speed square is this triangle with this lip. So I offer up the lip against the wood, and it allows me to draw, I think they call it a perpendicular line. Alright, so 45 inches. The reason I'm tackling our workbench first is because I think it will be the stepping stone to all the different projects that we could potentially do. This is our second piece at 45 inches. I foresee a lot of problems when I'm going to start drilling this material into one another. So I have my 4 pieces at 45 inches using 10-foot lengths of 2x4. I have, this is the excess material from those cuts, and this is 31 inches. The legs for this table calls for 30-inch legs with 3-inch casters below, because the table will go on wheels. The only variation I'm thinking about making is probably cutting my legs at like about 32, so when I put the 3-inch wheels below, I'll have a table height of about 36. Exactly 31. The second part of the cut list calls for 8 lengths at 37 inches. So I'm going to work on that. You see the legs, 30 inches. If this project is successful, the next thing I want to do is work on some storage for the garage. So Anna, is the saw plugged in? Is the saw plugged in? It is plugged in. The black cord is going to the orange extension cord. So while you're down here, I'm going to unplug that saw, okay? Watch your step, baby.
When I do that doors, I really wanted to see how it works.
Oh, you want to see how it works? Okay.
I saw him chasing a ticket. The ticket was losing fellas while he was running away from Lucky.
Yeah, boy.
Lucky the bag.
If you could just focus on this piece of wood here, please. We're going to verify that this is 37 inches long. Yes, it is. I did a good measurement and a good cut. So I need 7 more pieces like this, okay?
7.
Yes.
Oh, no.
So I have, what is this instrument called? You remember?
Speed square.
It's called a speed square and it's used to draw like straight lines, right? Perpendicular. So I'm going to measure 37 inches again.
I'm trying to hold this, but I want to cover my ears.
Oh, that's
Haley's
good.
hair. How different me.
So I have my 4 pieces at 45 inches and my 8 pieces at 37 inches. Some of them are a fraction shorter than the 37 inches. I think when I was doing the measurement or either calculating for the thickness of the blade, I kind of trimmed some stuff off. So for the top shelf, to frame it, I'm going to use 2 pieces at 45 inches and I'm going to use 4 pieces at 37 inches. Oh, one of the things I had to do while I was cutting, I kept in error going to 36 inches and I came very close to making a cut at 36 inches, the 3 foot mark. So it was a good thing that I measured twice and realized, oh, I should be cutting this at 37 inches. This is the part of the project I'm most concerned about. Just to give you an idea of the tools that I'm using here. And remember, I'm based in Trinidad and Tobago, so I'll give you an idea of where I got the tools and the prices that I paid for them. This is like a combination drill and impactor that I got at PriceMart. I paid about $750 for these tools here. I got this square from a hardware close to, I think it's called a square. The hardware close to where we live, it's 24 inches long. I paid about $70 TT for this. These are some 3-inch deck screws that was recommended for this project. I didn't think these screws were going to be very expensive. I almost fainted when I went to Bargain and I saw that these deck screws, 1 pound of it would cost $252. The same item on Amazon.com is 5 pounds you could order at about $30 US. So if I'm pursuing woodworking projects, I need some alternatives. If you're based in Trinidad and you know about where I can get good price on deck screws, I see 3-inch seems to be very popular. This is a number 10 or 10 gauge, I'm not sure what they say. Or if you are aware of alternatives that I could use, feel free to let me know. So what I'll be doing is I'll be drilling into the sides of the board and then into the 2x4. Based on the plans, the 2x4 are spaced like every 13 inches going across. These are the cross pieces here. But I want to be able to pre-drill. I believe they said that that prevents the lumber from splitting. So we'll try and see what is going on. Not feeling very confident about this, but I'll try my best. I think the guy was using a block in the YouTube video to kind of line up things a little bit flush. Oh, before I want to do some markings so I'll know exactly where to do my drilling. So in looking at videos on YouTube about the thickness of lumber and whatnot, I see there are 2 things. There's I think they call it the nominal measurement and the actual measurement. I see that 2x4, the actual thickness of it is 3.5 inches by 1.5 inches. When I pull that measurement on our 2x4, I see that the actual measurement is a little bit more than 2 inches in most cases, and a little bit longer than the 4 inches, at least in the instance of with the material I'm working with here. When I'm drilling this into each other, I want to be able to include marks so that I could more or less line up in the center of this lumber here. So if I make a mark at the 1 inch area here. I draw a line and I send these screws in here, 2 screws, 1, 2. I know I'll be kind of catching up in the center here. The marks I'm making over here should correspond to the marks on that side as well. The 2x4 should be spaced like every 13 inches. I'll try to work with that. So when I measure 13 inches, I will need to draw a line, add in 1 inch, and then draw a line so I know that I can drill into the center of the material here. So this is my first mark at 1 inch. I'll need to transfer this line down here using the speed square so I'll know where to drill into. 15. I've offered up this square here. This block of wood at the back here is just to flush the 2 pieces of material. So my square is in place on the inside. I'm going to start to drill in here. So I felt the wood moving in the background. I guess if I had certain type of clamps, this would be a lot easier too. Things kind of shifted here a bit. And now I'm going to send home one of these nice, expensive 3-inch deck screws. So it went home, and inside of there, it looks square enough. It's not as flush as it could be. Yeah, it's a little bit kicked out here. That might be a bad thing, and I might pay the price for that. I actually don't know what's the best thing to do, if I should pull this out and readjust it. Maybe I should. No, this is badly outer square. You can see evidence where it's outer square. This time around, I want to try the speed square. The square the wood as I included. I can feel it shift, but it looks square. Looks square enough. So I ended up with a real interesting problem with my decking screws. They got stuck. I think also when I did the pre-drilling, I didn't clear the wood shavings. So if you know what our problem is, let me know in the comment section. I guess I'll get pliers and unscrew this. I could feel myself getting a little bit more of a rhythm using the impactor. I realize like if I kind of pull the trigger, the screw goes in without that sticking problem. Those screws are still stuck. No idea how to remove them. We're on the home stretch here for the top shelf. I have been working for over 2 hours now, and this is where I've reached. I'm considering it a win because I have never done this before. So I googled how to remove a stuck decking screw. The guy said if you have a standard drill with, did he call it a removable chuck? So I guess we're gonna bang this over the screw and then reverse it. Bro, thank you very much. I'll put a link to the video in the description. Thank you very much. That is such an awesome trick. I had no idea how I was going to do that. Woo! University of YouTube is the best. Easy peasy, man. This isn't square as it could be. And also, a major thing I overlooked is the actual thickness of this wood being 2 inches thick. And following the plans, I was supposed to make some adjustments based on that. So I have to be a little bit careful moving forward. Where it isn't square, one side of the table is 41.5. So I'll try my best to get this square, flip it over, so we'll see what the top of the table looks like and pull the measurements from there. So I'm flipping the table, And this will be the top shelf. I just want to mark it as the top, as I have a tendency to forget where I put things. And working on the floor, I realize, oh boy, I'm looking forward to having a work table because you have somewhere to put your tools and whatnot. This crouching is killing my back, so I think this is a really good first project. You would recall that you cut these pieces 45 inches. Yeah, so that's fine. We were supposed to have, is it 40? Yeah, we're supposed to end up with a 45 by 40, giving consideration to the actual width of the 2x4. Our measurements here are 41.25 down in this corner. And because it may be out of square, let's see what I have up here. Ah boy, this is bad. I have a little less than 41.25, so maybe not so bad. So yeah, I guess that would suggest it being, no man, 41.25. Yeah. Good measurement. Looking good, feeling proud of myself. I have never done this in my life. I realized using the impactor as well, I was kind of using it as a drill, and that caused some screws to strip out. So I had to remove it as you saw just now. I can't reuse these screws, I have to dump them. Using the impactor is just like a kind of prut, 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 prut. You can make the sound effect if you want. Prut, 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 prut. So I'm gonna have some coffee. I'm gonna mount up the bottom shelf. Then I'm gonna go down the road, buy the hardware, and get those. I want to offer up those casters. The casters I'm looking at, that might be the closest option, cost $50 TT. This time around, I'm pre-drilling all my holes. I'm also going to ensure that I get the sawdust or the debris out of the hole. Just as I was drilling the last of the pilot holes, I realized something I totally took for granted when I was mounting up the first shelf was to sand these edges. I don't know if doing that would improve the joining that takes place, the drilling. So I'm going to apply some sandpaper now and see if it makes a difference. I don't know if it will, as I said. If you have an idea, feel free to let me know. I am here to learn, and whatever you know could help me, could help someone else. And as I learn, I will try my best to help you all. I'll probably need to get myself a sander if things go well. I really am having a hard time working on the ground like this, so I'm glad for this workbench. Even if the other job that I'm doing and not necessarily woodwork, I think it's a brilliant addition to the home. So I have my 2 shelves made. The measurement is actually 41.25 by 45 inches. Remember, that is to cater for the actual size of the lumber. In our case, it is actually 2 inches wide. So be mindful of that before you go cutting your ply. You'll need to make that accommodation. So this is the top. I need to remember when I'm putting on the legs to flip it back over and we'll attach the legs. The legs will be attaching on the outside here, coming up. So what that does is when we cut the ply to the top of it, the ply is going to be longer than the 45 inches so that we will have an overhang. I guess that is important if you want to, from what I'm hearing or understanding, if you want to clamp any tools to your table. Let's take a run down the road and get those casters. I got the casters. It has a lock on it, which will be ideal for when... Okay, so I've recognized something that means I have to dismantle the ends of the shelves that I just made. I'll see if I could explain this to you. The length of the shelf, the table, is 45 inches. That is how I have it cut. But when I put the legs on either side, it's going to bump the length of the table up to 49 inches. But my length of ply is 48 inches. So when I offer up the ply, you're going to see, I hope I'm explaining this well, you're going to see a bit of the leg. So what I'm going to do is I am going to cut the length of the table to 44. So when I put the outer leg, I'll get 2 inches on the side and 2 inches on the side, which will give me 48 inches, because the idea is I want to get this a little bit flush. So I'm learning that it's important that you really know the thickness of the material that you're working with. And I guess that varies based on if you select dressed lumber or rough. Also, I want to big up my partner Ashad Mohammed, who is giving me a lot of tips in between. Thanks, buddy, I appreciate it. This here is the bit of lumber that we're going to reduce to 44 inches. I guess I could make this cut with the circular saw. I do think I'm quite ready to use the circular saw as yet. It's not going all the way through. I think the problem is that the wood is lower here, so I'll just try to give it a little bit of a lift. I don't know how that may have messed with my cut. I don't know. Hey, how you doing? Look out for sharp objects on the floor. How was it day at school? Oh boy. Oh boy.
Belly.
Sorry, I'm making these cuts here.
Oh, what's your nose?
He literally not open the door. A little more than 44 inches. We walk in it. I am back on track, having cut the length to 44. I've just added a clamp for this to be flush. I don't know if it really has any use, but I'm telling myself that it does. So I'm going to drive home these 4 screws. This is the caster I got. This is 4 inches tall. As I mentioned, it has a lock on it. So the only modification that I'll be making to the plan, well, 2 actually, because instead of 1/2 inch ply, I went with 5/8 ply. I need to cut my legs. Instead of cutting it at 30 inches, I'm going to cut it at 31 3/8. So when I add in the height of this caster and the height of my 5/8 ply, according to my wife's calculations, I should be at 36 inches. Don't ask me how maths works. So I have my 4 legs cut at 31 3/8. I'm just gonna draw out some templates so when I offer up to drilling the screws, I don't need to be wondering where to gauge them. 1 screw into the long piece and 2 screws into the side pieces. So I want to get a mark at 1 3 inches, then again at 1, 2, at 3 inches. I'll draw lines here, taking note of the 2-inch mark because that's where I want the screw to go in, to the lengthways piece that is 44 inches. And then at the 3-inch mark here, I am going to draw a line, and then I'll make a mark at 1 inch and then another mark at 3 inches, so that when I'll pre-drill these also. Let me start the drilling process. Being sure to move the wood forward a little bit so I don't drill into the pieces underneath. So I just realized I do some crap. I draw those lines horizontal. I should have drawn them vertical. You probably can't see them in the video here. But nope, that doesn't work. Alright, so let me see if I can get this right here. This is my leg here. So I will catch a screw at 2 inches. I need to pre-drill this. So it goes into the length of this piece, the 44-inch piece. Remember, I cut that down. And then I will drive in the cross section, one at the 1 inch and at the 3-inch mark. So 2 screws will hold down this piece and 1 screw will hold down the length of it. I'll do the same thing on all 4 sides. Oh, my back is killing me. This is me pre-drilling before I use the impact driver to send these 3 screws home. To make life easy, I'm going to drive in 3 screws. Once I'm sure this is working well, I'll go ahead and repeat the results for the rest of the legs. We are about to try to send the first leg home. Don't look too shabby. This is one of the most back-breaking things I've done in a while. So we have 4 legs up. I have to flip this table. I'm a little bit tired, but I think I want to at least get that done before the night is up. So maybe tomorrow morning when I could start ripping down the ply. I'm very happy that I trimmed the table to the 44 inches. It was a little bit difficult kind of to re-enter that work, dismantle it, but it was a good choice. So I'm curious to see when I flip the table and I pull the measurement. I'm hoping to see 48 inches there. This table is pretty heavy. The only reason I mounted this upstairs here is because the surface area is a lot flatter than it is downstairs. So I thought my chances of having a level table were a little bit better. I'm hoping I don't need to dismantle it to take it downstairs. Come on, baby! Whoa! Whew. There's a big gap here that I'll probably back out this, hammer it in a little bit and see if I can get it a little bit more snug around the table. Looks okay. Yeah. Looking alright, not too bad. Let me see if I could adjust that gap in the corner. A little better. Now I am going to pull my tape along the length of the table and I hope to see 48 inches. A little more than 48 inches. And on this side, 48 inches exact. And you know the problem? The problem is when I reduce the length of the table from 45 inches to 44 inches, I cut it a little bit longer than 44 inches. Ah boy, that is too bad. But here's what I'll do. When I mount this up, I'll double check the measurements, and if it is that I have 48, I will use this as the top of the table instead and just hide the errors down below. I see some potential to get this down to 44 or to 48 inches exactly. Call for a hammer. back out the screws a bit. Oh, I almost pumped my hand. Oh! Oh boy, I did not want to back out so far. I'm trying to take the lazy way out, but the right thing to do is flip this and do it over. I would have liked to finish build this upstairs, but I wouldn't be able to transport it even with my wife's help. So I'm going to finish the build down here. I saw a little technique where they say something is kind of square. If it is that the measurement to the top here between the legs should be the same as the measurements below between the legs. So I'll measure between the legs and see what happens. Just to drag that into place now. I feel bad dragging the cable out. It's the best I can do for now. And I'm going to repeat the process of sending in one screw along the length and 2 screws along this side. I have some more drilling to do. Oh my goodness. How I survived so long without a work table. Oh my goodness. Oh. 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 I have to flip the table so I can attach the casters to the bottom. Yeah, this is a really clever design because when I offered up the casters I was thinking it wouldn't work, it wouldn't have sufficient wood to catch the screws on. But it is a really, really clever design. And once again I want to thank Fix This Build That for providing these plans for free because it's awesome and yeah. Oh my goodness. So this is the caster here, and I want to catch a screw, the side piece or the cross piece, and twist here into this vertical, or 2 here actually. I want really badly to continue, but I'll stop. The reason I'll stop is because I have 4 inches by 4 inches. Trying to put a 4x4 block here, but the caster that I purchased the plate is smaller, so I think it will look a lot better if I change the plate into something that measures 4 inches. It can be flush instead of offsetting it so it catches. You know what? I want to see this table with wheels tonight. I'm going through the casters. If I want to change it in the future, I could always do that. I'm measuring 1/2 inch. I have no idea if the table is level. I haven't tested that as yet. To install the casters, I am using a smaller screw along with a washer. This is an 1.25 inch screw. I purchased this because when I cut the ply, I have to also use this screw to install it. You know what? I don't think that screw will be strong enough. I should change it out for a bigger screw. So I ended up using the 3-inch screws. I don't know if it's a good idea because it's kind of close to the edge. I used a pound of 3-inch 10 gauge deck screws for this project. 1 pound. And you remember, is a costly thing. If you happen to know where I could get it for a good price in Trinidad, feel free to let me know. I may experiment if I continue with the woodworking. I may experiment with bringing it into the country to see if it makes sense.